You're listening to episode 1017 of the Father Bills Podcast. Welcome back. This week's episode is entitled Temptations, Sins, and Trials, given on the first Sunday in Lent 2026. Lent this time a year, of course, is a time where we're honestly looking into our hearts. The psalm, like, create a clean heart for me, O Lord, right? We're called to repent, to confess, and grow closer to God. It is the season then of freedom, when the Lord desires to lift up our burdens, or lifts us up from our burdens, so that we may truly flourish. But see, many people carry unnecessary burdens because they confuse different spiritual experiences. In the confessional, often we hear temptations confessed as if they're sins. Others carry guilt over what was simply a trial or frustration. And someone will be weighed down by sins that have already been confessed and absolved, yet it still haunts them. So today I want to free you. I would like to offer you some thoughts and maybe clear up some confusion. In the spiritual life, we face three distinct experiences. There's temptations, there's sins, and there's trials. And they're not the same. And the difference is important. It matters. So temptations, what are those? Those are enticements, suggestions, attractions that pull, or impulses that invite us to move away from God. They can come from the world. They can come from ourselves, our fallen nature, or they can come from the devil. But here's the key. Temptation is not sin. Temptation is not sin. Even Jesus was tempted in the desert, and he did not sin. Sin begins when we say yes and give in to the temptation. We freely choose something, and it pulls us away from God, and we can feel it. That's when it becomes a sin. That's when it becomes a sin. But that feeling, that pull, that thought, because we can have a lot of crazy thoughts. I know I can. Those are not sin. Some of us need to hear that very, very clearly. Being tempted does not mean you're bad. It simply means it's the consequence of our fallen nature. Again, Jesus was tempted, but he quickly rebuffed Satan. Now, trials, they're different. Trials are difficulties. They're something that stretches us. We call them crosses. In fact, Christ says, pick up your cross. If you don't pick up your cross, you're not worthy of me. So temptations pull you away from God, and trials, if you embrace them, draw you closer to him. Temptations weaken us if we give in, and trials strengthen us if we walk through them. So I'd like to give you an example. When I first arrived at Holy Trinity about 4 years ago, I noticed a soft spot in the parish house bathroom right near the shower, right in front of the shower. Likely dry rot. Okay, how many of you have ever remodeled your house? Yeah. So I put off addressing it, like, oh man, this is going to be a problem. But a few weeks ago, we finally decided we're going to tackle this, hoping it'll be a small repair. And again, how many of you remodeled your house? Yeah. Instead, it became a major renovation, or it's going to be, because as we rip out the floor, it's mostly dry rot. Yeah. The floor must come out. The damage is not just affecting the one bathroom, it's also affecting the second bathroom, and part of the bedroom, my bedroom, and the closet, and possibly the hallway. Yeah. I'm gonna need to move out at some point. Now, what is this? Is this situation a temptation or a sin or a trial? Well, the situation itself is not a sin, but delaying it may have been a sin on my part. I'm supposed to be a good steward, right? Along the way, I might find temptations to complain, to grow resentful, to blame others, and to indulge in my friend named self-pity. Or maybe envy those who have really wonderful bathrooms. I might even just go into despair. Giving into these things, that's sin. But see, there's another option. The other option is to see it as a trial. In this case, an inconvenience that will purify my patience. A disruption that reminds me that I'm not in control. I can laugh at the unexpected detours and delays because, again, if you've ever done any remodels, there's plenty of those delays inside, like detours. There can be small or big. So this frustration, I'm going to need to look to God for those. Maybe I could just remain faithful. That is, that there is a solution. We're not, taking the house down. We can actually afford to fix it, we hope. And we can choose, and I can choose to see it as an opportunity from many other things, like it's an upgrade. See, the same event can become a temptation or it can become a trial. Depending on how I deal with it, I may or may not fall into sin, grow weaker, or I can see it as a trial and grow stronger. It depends how I respond. And this is the Christian life, my friends. This is actually the journey which Lent wants us to focus on. Not my house building and remodel, but our own remodeling in our hearts. Looking at our reading, we have Adam and Eve. They were tempted, and they said no to God. They disobeyed. Then we see Jesus, who said yes to God and no to Satan. He was not going to put up with it. Both experienced temptation. One resulted in sin. And the difference was their will and the decision that followed their will. Deacon Brett last week asked us a great question. Will we let God change our hearts? Will we let God change our hearts? And that is a question that I thought as I was hearing it, that's a great question in the context of Lent. And here we are. So let's be clear. God does not want your heart so they can control you. He wants your heart that he may set you free and that you may flourish. But here's the subtle temptation that we can all face. Do you trust God? This is one of trust. Maybe you feel that God's holding out on you. Maybe you've had some experiences where you might have concluded he really doesn't care. Or that if I surrender, I will lose something and I'll be miserable. That was the lie of the garden, in the garden. And that's still the lie today. God is not holding out for you. God is holding out his hands to you. It means something like resisting temptation with trust in God's providence. Sometimes it means letting God tear up the dry rot in your lives, exposing what is weak so he can rebuild and make it strong. And what he rebuilds, he builds stronger than before. This Lent, do not be afraid of what God uncovers. He's not trying to diminish you. He's trying to form you. And if we let him in and change our hearts, we will not just merely see Lent as those 40 days I've got to endure. No, they might be days that you will flourish. Just watch the fruits. So by the way, I won't be homeless if that was one of your thoughts. I'll just move in with Father Dominic. How would you feel if your boss decided to come and move in? Well, maybe there will be some temptations coming forward. Poor Father Dominic. Thank you again for listening to this episode of the Father Bill's podcast. If you have any comments or questions, I invite you to go to my website, fatherbill.org. That's FRBILL.org. And as I close up this podcast, I have another piece of music that this time when using AI for the music and for the lyrics, I worked really hard, and the lyrics also encompass not just what the readings were for the day, but also something about the homily itself. So this will then be the song entitled, Lead Us into the Wilderness. the meantime, may God bless you and have a great week. Bye-bye.
In the garden you breathed out life, formed from dust by loving hands.
Yet we feared you were withholding, turned from trust to our own plans.
We believed the serpent's whisper,
reaching for what was not ours.
we fell from grace in that first hour.
Be merciful, O Lord, cleanse us deep within. Create a clean heart, Lord, make us new again. When temptation calls, teach our hearts to trust. You are not withholding love. Lead us in the wilderness. In the desert, Spirit led, you face the tempter's subtle lies.
No grasping hand,
No restless doubt,
only trust before the trial.
where Adam feared the Father's heart, you trusted fully in His will. Tempted, yet you gave not in. Be merciful, O Lord, cleanse us deep within. Create a clean heart, Lord, make us new again. When temptation calls, teach our hearts to trust. You are not withholding love. Lead us in the wilderness. And now the whisper comes to us. Take control, God's holding out.
But giving in will turn our steps away from life and into doubt. And trials rise like needed healing, breaking what would slowly fall.
You uncover hidden weakness,
So stronger grace can stand to all. You are not tearing down to harm us, not exposing us in shame. You restore what once was fragile, and we rise renewed again.
us faithful.
Through the cross, refine us still.
Lead us in the wilderness. Lead us in